Welcome back, Wickerson Studios. I am continuing with the Rhino training level 1 course, and I am going to jump on to 6.4 using object snaps, and I'm going to use the file that's actually in there. So don't mind the grasshopper currently, but you can go into here as long as you go into help and you go to your Rhino Learn, download your samples, and open object snap. You can do that, and there we go, bamf. And I'll just center zoom extends all. We'll be working from probably the top view to start, and what they do is they want to basically get you thinking, and you can see I'm planning for Grasshopper to import all these curves, and I'll do that in a minute. But basically they want you to go through and have fun with the object snaps, and you can do that on your own accord. Take them all off, you can disable them or not, but if I did end, obviously I'm going to remove my, I'm going to put on my object snaps, and there they are. I should be able to, let's say we were to start by making a line, a single line. You can see that that's going to snap to end wherever it finds the end of that curve. And of course, the circle is created by an end there. You've got the endpoints on all of these. Get some news on Reddit at the endpoints of all the squares. So that's fine. You could do near. And near is going to snap wherever it goes near to a line, which is nice and easy. A point is going to choose wherever that point is. And of course, there's no points on here, so I'm not snapping to any. Midpoint would be nice. You can snap to the midpoints of the lines, and I believe since that was the beginning, the midpoint should be over here somewhere opposite that. So start to understand that. Really nice one is center. On a circumference, you go to the circumference of a circle, it snaps to the inside, so you can snap here and draw your line over to there. There you go, you have a nice little line on. Looks like the lines is set to red. That's why it came out red. Intersections, obviously, I would want to, I could click on here, and since I just made a line, I could go and make my curve, keep consistent so I don't become so confusing. You see the intersection is here to here, so that's nice, and there's an intersection there, so you could just quickly draw an intersection down like that. You could hit right click to do it again and click here, and you can click here. So you're learning really to snap and do some wonderful things like this. You can go into perpendicular tangents on the circles, which are very nice. If I was to grab here, I could grab the tangent of this circle, except when I do that, it's going to say curve. I'm going to produce a line, but it's going to say I want to make a tangent to curves. So I'd have to go there and then the first tangent near, select first curve near tangent point, which would be that one. And I'm not sure why I'm not reading that curve and this curve. Let me try that again. Curve, line, tangent from curve, tangent from two curves. Well, it should be understanding that's a curve. Why am I having difficulty with that? Both sides point on curve, two curves. Let me try a point here. No, point on curve. Well, that's interesting that I'm having trouble with that. Maybe I haven't practiced it enough. Let's do tangent from curve. There we go, tangent from that curve to that curve. Okay, so that's what I needed to choose. I'm going to grab a tangent from this curve all the way over to this curve. You see that one grabbed tangent, this curve down to this curve, so you can see it moves. So very nice to get some really nice accurate points in popping this in. You can get the quads, which is nice. I'm going to grab a point. You can see I can grab the quads of that circle around like that, which is nice. And here it's not going to work so much, but it will understand the circle that way in grabbing the 4 coordinate systems. Knots are very interesting, but knots are numbers, so you want to know where those are. Vertexes, projects, and you can hold down control, which is pretty nice because then you get this whole second array from, perpendicular from, tangent from, along line, along point, I think that's what it is, along parallel, sorry, along line, along parallel, on curve, on surface, and this gets pretty complex, and it's pretty nice to use. So that's a lot of jargon. I'm going to leave that and say be playful with that. And they go through the whole thing and have you grab for mids, and you run through that exercise until you analyze model. And analyzing model is nice because they go in, they say, well, jump into here, analyze distance, and grab there, and you'll want your snaps on end. You can snap from there to there, and boom, we automatically get the wonderful coordinate systems in the control in the construction plane, the world plane, and then you get the distance. And you can do the same in analyze and grab this. Now, of course, there's nodes for that. Units of measure, select curves to measure. The length, what am I doing on length of that curve? units in the model. I'm not sure why I'm not selecting there. Maybe because I don't have my select. This one. Why am I not able to select? That's weird. Select that curve. Something's fudging out. It could be my mouse again. I'm really getting sick and tired of this one. But at this point, I'm having trouble snapping to anything. So maybe I'll slap near, point, mid, center. I'll just put all these on because I may end up using them after. I don't need tang. So that's interesting that it bugged out on me a little bit. It's a little frustrating. Default layer. Kids are making a ton of noise, which is always what they do. Let me pause a second, see if I can figure this out before I must have tricked something because I must have popped over here and put lock, so I couldn't select any of these curves, which is basically what was happening. And you do feel foolish when you find things out, but you learn to debug in programming, and you definitely learn. And that will tell me the length of that whole curve. There it is, 15.708. I could do it again and collect this one, which I'm pretty sure is set to 8 millimeters. And so that's basically the same, but don't hit your lock. That's exactly what I did, so I couldn't affect those other ones. So now we're going to go in, and after doing that and analyzing and think of that, I think they give examples of rate. What do they end up doing? They end up finding the length of things. I think they find the radius of something as well, which is nice. You can click a tangent, which is pretty nice. Also measure the radius of the curvature at a point, which is very nice. So Analyze tool has a bunch of things in here that you might want to check out. So let's just try and grab that radius and say, okay, give me the radius of that. Well, I didn't click to the point, to the center, to the point. Yeah, there it is. Radius is 2.5 millimeters. So obviously it's the same on each one because they're the same size circles. So enough said about that. Let's grab this object and let's put it in here as set one object. Bam. And I think we're set because it went from orange, and we're dealing in Grasshopper now. Have a little bit of fun here. And we'll try and do similar things. Let's grab this object and let's put that one into set one object. And let's grab this one and let's set this one in to set one object. And we'll grab this one and we will set one object. And then I'm also going to grab this and I'm going to explode it now. I'm going to grab this side and I'm going to set that in as one object. I'm going to grab this object and explode that. And I'm going to grab this side and set it in as one object. And I have to wonder, these ones obviously, I guess, fell apart because I actually had exploded them. So that's very interesting because that was dependent. So we group those together, and then this one becomes defunct. I've never played like this. And so you discover things. And in research and development, being creative and then critiquing what you do, you go around and around and around. So I'm going to set one curve so that one works. And then this line works over here, but it makes this one defunct. So very interesting to think of that. So what I'm going to do is basically take this line, which is was defunct. This one will be that square. This one will be this one. And I'm going to actually go in and just separate these sections and just playing around. My kids are in between school. I'm going to take this side and put it over here because I'm thinking geometrically with these nodes. I'm actually starting to sort out my mind a little bit. This one I'm going to set to here, set one curve, and then this one I'm going to pull aside and I'm going to say I want to set to here. So now I've got the ability to do things. And whereas these red lines before were doing something in Rhino, let's start to create some things. So let's grab, go to surfaces, go to area, and immediately I'm able to grab a centroid to that. And not only have that, but I have what we were finding out in analysis, area, dimensions, distance, length, and everything like that. Whenever you're working in Grasshopper, get in the habit of using panels and knowing exactly what you're talking about. Obviously, we're working on an area, a number to give that area. And at another sense, I'm going to want a point that's generated from centroid. And you can start to break this down in its x, y, z coordinates. So you're actually thinking about what you're doing. And if you ever get lost in absolutely what you're looking at as data, the param viewer is fantastic. Not only to look at it as a single branch with one item, you can actually put a tree on it, double click it, and go to draw tree, and it gets more complex as you bring different things into it. So we'll get into that detail later, but those two tools are very handy for understanding data. So this, we're going to cut and paste. We're going to do the same for this circle. And you can see basically what I exactly want to do is go in and create my line. I know a couple of these nodes, and I like dealing in icons, so I can actually start thinking about, there's our line in between. So we actually created one of the ones that we were building from center snaps in here. But what's very nice is if we take this circle and move it up, it is updated according to what I've done. So that's the power of Grasshopper, and that's why we're doing this. That's why we're thinking about this. What's nice is we could do something as simple as taking the circumference of this circle over here, which is, let's say, this one. Let's go in and go to curves and go to analysis and say, I think there's a second called division. Let's divide the curve, and it defaults to a count of 10, which can be very exciting. Defaults to a count of 10, and I will just extract that so you can see that. And if you're wondering how many is in that integer, they default to 7 as an icon, but you can see there's 10 items in there. If I take that curve and blast it, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I can take those points and think, well, what if I made those points the endpoints? And all of a sudden I have this nice form here that still is parametric to what I end up doing with this original form that was brought in. So you start to see the power of this. And I think that's exciting. So let's mix it up a little bit. Let's take our points and create some other lines just for fun. Let's take our center point to this one, the centroid as the start point, and let's take it down to this endpoint. Of course, that's not a point, that's a curve. So I would go to curve analysis. There's a midpoint on the curve, which is nice. And it's not going to be too exciting to put that one in. You can see that it actually runs now. It's going from the center point to that one. But I can also plug in all these other sides by holding shift. And you can do this and pop them all in like this by holding shift and adding them to it. And you get all 4 of those sides. Another thing to do, which some people like to do so they understand their script more, is go into sets and use merge. And you'll find that 20% of these nodes you use probably 80% of the time as you start to find the style that you like to use. And I'm going to show you a little technique. Control shift, disconnect, plug everything into the merge, then pop it in here. And then you can see the order of what you're doing. And technically you probably should do this. Put your 1 in here, put your 2 in here. And that's the point of the merge tool, is you start to understand your data better. And there we go. We've got it related to all those points. And if we update this circle over here and we choose to move that, obviously it has to update over here. So you start to build some pretty interesting 2D geometries just from working parametrically in Grasshopper. And I might leave it at that, even though we did have another, I think we have one other square that we were playing with over here. Let's take that one and see what would we do to that curve. What are some things we could do to analysis? You could deconstruct the rectangle, which is very interesting. What does that do? What does that give me? That gives me a base plane in the center, so you start dealing planes as opposed to just lines, and it gives you an X and Y interval. Probably don't want to complicate that much. I probably just want to go in, take it, and I think what I'll do is go to points on curve, and I will pop it in here, and I have a point on that curve that I can roll all the way around. And so with that, I could take that point. We'll delete this one, not complicate. We have these points, which are the end points. Let's copy that, make another copy of it because it's copying the script. And let's plug that one into this point. And so you see how you start to play in Grasshopper. It's a totally different animal. What another wise way to build some geometries and have some fun with it. So already we have, if I look at it all, a pretty complex system of just playing around with Grasshopper that will give me incredible power compared to the visibility of going in here and playing around with Rhino and being dependent on, okay, I want to draw a line from, let's say we put it on quads, and we want that little quad there, and I want that quad to go to this quad, to go to this quad, to go to this quad, and then close it. So you can build that as an object, but that doesn't have any power over anything else unless I import it into a curve and do something with it. So I will make it kind of parametric by bringing it in here. Let's bring in another curve. Let's set that to one curve, and now I'm able to extract in those curves analysis endpoints. Well, that's not going to be too exciting. It's just going to go to the start and end. Well, what I could do is find the endpoints. I could take this curve and I could explode it, and I think there's a way to deconstruct polygon, control points. Let's grab the control points of this and say, okay, here are all our control points. Now we can take our control points and put it into possibly here, and there you go. You have another effect of that being drawn off into the square. And you can see how infinitely complex the iterations can get with something like this. and you slowly control your data. In the end of a Grasshopper document like this, I might get rid of what was helping me understand it. I might take these three and say they were pretty interesting to look at. I don't need that one. I start to work left to right, that I say, okay, I used a midpoint. I might pull these back in so I can see things. I had some tangent points here. I try and get the can of worms organized enough that I can see what's happening. That is going to be a curve for importing, which I'm going to drag over here. This is a curve that feeds these two. This is a number extracted, which I don't need to see because I know there's a number extracted there. I'll tuck this one up like this. I have another curve that's controlling what I'm doing. I have another curve. I have another curve. I have another curve. And what's nice is you'll get in the habit of just neatening and tidying your scripts. And we'll just do a little center and space. We'll do center and space. And then we have this little points online, which has such an effect. And that's fairly parametric. That's a good little slider. It's kind of like a multi-dimensional slider, but it's a one-dimensional slider. And you can see how that has an effect on quite a few things. There's just the what I did to manipulate that last curve. So there's all your stuff that you want to grab. Those are your curves that you have an effect on. You've got a nice little script. We'll call it OSnaps test. And you've got that. If you want to, I will save that document. If you're interested, I am creating for my Patreon viewers these little tiny plugins that all of the Rhino and all the Grasshopper files will be here that you can play around with. It's not so fancy pants like some of the other repositories that I have in here because they really climb into C# and they climb into Python nodes and custom nodes, but you get a sense of what's happening. And as I go, we're going to jump onto our smart track and have fun with Rhino Smart Track 6.6, I think. And thanks very much for watching.